first session in the medical track is an industry keynote on future of healthcare, a technologist perspective. To present this, we have with us Mr. Suresh Kumar, VP of Technology, Optum India.
Hi everyone, I'm Sureshkumar. I'm here to share a technologist perspective on future of healthcare. Would like to start with major challenges and opportunities, followed by top trends in three areas of health system, basically pharmacology, medical devices, and health delivery. Across the top trends, you will see that virtual healthcare, precision medicine, and preventive health play a major role. And I'll be summarizing with technology's role in future of healthcare. Before getting on to the session, I would like to introduce you to the world's most diversified healthcare company, United Health Group, which I'm part of. United Health Group is ranked fifth of the Fortune 500 and reported 287.6 billion in 2021 as revenue. It has two major areas, United Healthcare and Optum. And Optum is the digital, which enables the IT-based health services. And it has three major verticals, Optum Insight, Optum Health, and Optum RX. I'm part of Optum Insight team. With that, I would like to start off with quadruple aim. It was almost a decade plus when triple aim came into existence and widely accepted as key goal for healthcare professionals across, which was focused around enhanced patients' experience, how to reduce the cost of care, and how do we improve the quality of outcome. And soon people realized that clinician experience is very important, and it was impacting the triple aim, and that's how triple aim became quadruple aim. I would like to take some time going through each of those aims. What are those challenges? What are the opportunities? Because it is very important in knowing these before we try to talk about how the future will look like. The first aim, I'm picking up reducing the cost of care. If you just pick up US national health expenditure in 2020, it almost grew by 10% to 4.1 trillion, which is roughly 19.7% of the GDP. People realize that across the board, there is increase in the cost, and CMS came out with more incentives and programs to ensure that there is some amount of control to the cost, where incentives were provided for providers to look at value over volume. And that's how the value-based care came into prominence. And there are multiple programs right now run by CMS promoting value-based care across the board. And if you look at the total cost and how much percentage of that cost is actually taken by the chronic disease patients' care, almost 20% of the annual health spend goes for treating top 1% of the chronic disease patient. This actually talks about a huge opportunity out there. And if you look at the chronic patients, it has been found that just by making sure that there are right interventions through both virtual health and other means, if we can reduce the risk of hospitalization, there is tremendous amount of cost reduction that is possible, while the outcome can be much better. And if you look at the another area of opportunity, there are multiple duplicative efforts, primarily driven by multiple disjoint systems within the healthcare system. And we do have opportunity to actually reduce cost by just integrating all this healthcare information seamlessly across the board, which can actually help in both improving the productivity and also eliminate the duplicative care. Another area is what happens in the rural settings. If we look at the US data, 11% of the physicians and only 9% of the specialists in the US actually practice in rural setting, which actually imposes a big challenge around access as well as affordability. If I look at the Indian data, almost of the 1.2 million physicians that we have, only 3% practice in the rural setting. This is where remote health monitoring, telehealth, all this can actually give better access to primary healthcare providers and specialists, enabling a better access as well as affordable health. Going to the next aim around the patient experience, Many of the times you would have seen how, for example, in the NICU, where neonates are under monitoring, parents are very anxious to know what is happening with the babies, and while they can't actually, physically see them or be present when they're going through the treatment. Even for a adult patient, there are many situations where you are very keen to know what is happening. So patient assimilation and transparency on what is happening live becomes extremely critical to actually reduce the anxiety as well as some of the cognitive burden that typically the family members go through with the information overload and not able to actually see what is happening live. Last couple of years, personally, I've gone through an experience where when I were admitted in ICU, my family was actually very anxious to know what is happening to me. And definitely, these are the areas where we can actually do much better. Another area would be patient centered communication. As a patient, you would like to know what is happening. You would like to know what are the various options. And again, depending upon the various background that you come out with, not all communication can be same. These are certain areas of opportunity which can actually help better patient experience. And of course, personification of the communication that is given to the patient is another very important area to be looked at. Most important aspect in patient experience is the real-time feedback, real-time in- information on what an individual is going through for not only the patient but also the provider and the family will be of much help as well. The third aim is around improving quality of outcome. We just saw how 20% of the healthcare cost in the US goes in managing 1% of chronic patients. Managing chronic disease burden is extremely critical. And prevalence of chronic disease again varies within the US states with 16.6% in Florida to almost 9.8% in Wyoming. This only emphasizes the need for tools and as well as data that can analyze what are the various factors that drives this variation, including social determinant of health such as income, education, healthcare access, prevalent healthcare access, as well as what is the ethnic makeup of a given area. Other area is to look at is more than 50% of the healthcare spend for diseases can be actually attributed to behavioral factors and lifestyle choices, which is completely avoidable. So this is where some kind of intervention and self-care behavior, periodic screening, seamless tracking of health status through various variables, they play a larger role. And this also can actually help in a right amount of intervention through right visits, primary care visits. It could be more virtual or when needed live. These are certain areas which are critical for reducing overall cost as well as improving the quality of outcome. And it has been found that almost 20 to 25% of various health plans, they were not able to maintain the annual quality ratings. This is based on studies over 2015 to 2019. And this also tells us the need for platforms where both payers as well as providers can come together and be able to look at the data and see the population mix, identify what is the right benchmark, what should be needed for right intervention to improve the overall quality of outcome. The fourth aim is around improving provider experience. Almost 42% physicians have reported burnout, which leads to lower patient satisfaction and higher costs. And 87% of the physicians have mentioned major cause for burnout is paperwork and administrative work. If we just look at ways to reduce the paperwork and documentation, we can actually take almost one third of the time physicians spend today on those work to be able to devote it for better patient care. So this is a great area for technologists to look at what are the various tools that we can actually provide to automate their work, to make their entire workflow more intelligent. For example, setting reminders on right intervention time and things like that. And another area is, of course, how do we also improve their work-life integration issues by enabling more virtual care. It has been seen that reducing visits can also help in having better life integration issues for the physicians and overall also to give right intervention because interventions can be given at much better rate. It has been found that almost 2 hours can be saved for patients for every visit that they make versus doing a virtual visits. And of course, not only automating the workflow, not only look at like work-life integration issues, it is also important we look at and monitor physicians' burnout and mental well-being and do the right intervention for them as well. So we looked at the four major aims of the quadruple aim. What are the challenges and what are the opportunities that we have? Now let us look at some of the top trends in the three major areas. Let's look at the top five trends that define the healthcare delivery sector. At the center stage is the virtual care. While virtual primary care will not replace 100% of in-person care visits, but definitely there is enough landscape that has changed, especially post-pandemic. AI-based triaging is another critical area. There is quite a lot of investment that is happening in this front, with many startups that are looking at uh, uh, various data that are available at their disposal and trying to look at how AI-based triaging can not only reduce the load at the emergency area, but also be able to do better predictions. Patient-centered medical home is another key area. India hospitals are seeing increased burden in their ICUs, and what they are looking at is ICUs may actually do better if patients can be sent home and monitored from there. Not everybody might require to be monitored at ICU. So this is taking a very important strategic imperative for most of the care providers, not only in India, but across the world. And asynchronous care is another important area that is picking up. 2020, Optum did a study in somewhere in December, and it was found that only 20% of the patients actually take asynchronous care benefits. However, almost 87% of them who took one or other form actually have given a very positive response saying that they will take it in the future as well, which says how much potential this particular area has. Through pandemic, again, we would have realized that not every time you need to go to hospital. There are multiple ways you can actually leverage asynchronous care through WhatsApp and multiple other modes that we have seen that like which has picked up over the last couple of years. Specialty care, which was always seen looking for in-person care visits, is also going through virtual adoption, especially in the chronic disease management. There is a lot of action that are happening there with full stack offerings following the suit. If you look at the top trends in the pharma sector, predominantly it is driven by biologics and biosimilar adoption. Biologics is actually driving better manufacturing capacity and including various other capabilities. Again, referring to what we saw the last couple of years, we saw how biologics was able to reduce the overall time to market some of the vaccines that otherwise could have actually taken more than a decade plus for development alone. Biosimilar is driving a lot of cost reduction. This is picking up across the globe, especially with multiple patents that are actually getting over for biologics. We do see that biosimilar adoption has got huge potential as well. The overall biologics and biosimilar adoption is actually also enabling better personalized medicine as well. This is also again made possible because of the integration of bioinformatics and the leverage that we have with various computational tools and cloud. The overall cost of medicine also is likely to go down with biosimilar adoption. Most of you will be interested on what is happening in the medical devices sector because this is an embedded system and security conference, and I'm sure a lot of you are working on devices. Let's look at what are the areas in the devices area that are changing. Number one is rise of medical device outsourcing. Devices are becoming more and more commodity, and which is actually driving lot of white labeling, which is actually an opportunity for countries like China and India. And there is a big growth around minimally invasive devices, predominantly driven by their inherent low risk and the leaps that they have taken both in terms of technology and what what is the recovery time that like the patient have to go through. And of course, a growing demand for cloud transformation and consumer wearables. There are multiple wearables that are now of very high quality, which are actually coupled with virtual care, is offering patient wellness as well as chronic disease management. With medical device becoming more and more commoditized, the core players in the sector are shifting towards software as a medical device. There is a lot of potential growth out there. It is expected to reach almost 86 billion by 2027, which is almost 5x growth from where it was in 2019. If you look at the top five trends across the three major health areas, we see that there is a common theme. The number one is around virtual healthcare. And virtual healthcare is being seen at the core of the overall future of health, primarily because it not only enhances the care coordination, which one and two physicians see that as actually improved much better and also improves the quality of care. Two in three health plans also believe that virtual health has improved overall member satisfaction, which is important for them as well. It not only improves the efficiency, but it also gives better access, not only to the consumers, but also to clinicians. The next one is around personalized medicine. We talked about how biologics and bioinformatics is playing a bigger role. This is actually enabling faster adoption of personalized medicine, where you look at different biological conditions of an individual through genomic studies and make the right decision. This actually is a great combination of genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, and big data. All of them together are not only creating better personalized medicine possibility, but also some predictive analytics as well. The Orphan Drug Act in 1983 has actually enabled coming out with therapies for rare diseases, which was around 34 when it was enabled in 1983. Today we have almost 730 drugs that are in place, which is actually again seeing a much exponential growth in this particular area. Preventive health, predictive analytics is enabling better preventive health, and this area is expected to grow almost CAGR 13% over the next 5 to 6 years. And the current market size seems to be much smaller, but the potential is very, very high. The major drivers are the government itself is actually readily promoting it, looking at the cost reduction that it gives while improving the quality of the care. And almost 80% of the providers do see value in predictive analytics, and they are looking at adopting it over the next 4 to 5 years. The future is actually around prevention rather than the cure, and it is actually enabled with multiple devices that you have through wearables, which not only helps in tracking but also in monitoring. Of course, another key thing is this also enables better access for everyone. Just summarizing the challenges that we saw, the top trends in the major verticals, these are certain areas where technologists like you and me have a huge role to play. The number one, of course, is around the virtual health. Look at the possibility of, can we create a virtual medical assistant that every patient can actually have with them, so that healthcare is not just as the intervention, but it is a continuous process. And of course, can we do better patient risk stratification with the availability of big data and access to various AI-based tools? This is a very near possibility. We do have more than 100 plus applications already gone through the FDA approvals, and there is a lot more potential in this particular area as well. And patient workflow management is another big area, which actually has potential for a lot more automation and intervention. And there are ways how a provider also would like to look at efficient prioritization. This is another area where technologists have quite a lot to play. And of course, reducing the overall waiting time in complex procedures, and also how do we enhance better access. So this is kind of kind of gives a summary of various areas where we can play a role. Before concluding, I would like to just look at what is the landscape on technology and healthcare, and how it is, like enabling the healthcare quadruple aim. Cloud is being the center of the technology actions that are happening, which actually gives variety of options, not only options for access to big data and analytics on top of them, but also around virtual care like video conferencing and multiple applications. It also enables vital monitoring of key information, which can enable a better remote patient monitoring. I do see that this convergence is actually enabling better value based care and also anytime, anywhere care. And I am a strong believer that technologists do play a pivotal role in accelerating the quadruple aim. Thank you very much for the opportunity.